Respected council members, we are here from Department of Procurement to present the budget for 2025. Today for this presentation, I have the honor of introducing my team, my leadership team out here. On my right is Kevin Floyd, Deputy CPO for City of Atlanta, Department of Procurement. On my left is Topeka Howard. She's the Deputy CPO for City of Atlanta, Department of Procurement. And on the extreme left is Amy Cornell, who's the Director for our Center of Excellence team. So with that said, that is the structure of the organization that we have. We have a good level of senior leadership and a good level of operational leadership that helps us to move Atlanta forward. We have 4 directors that support the operation side, and we have 2 deputy CPOs that are overseeing the operations on a day-to-day basis. With that, I wanted to kick off this presentation with 2 main buckets that I want to cover. The first one is I want to talk about what our focus has been and what our focus is going to be down the road. Our focus is to continue momentum towards a world-class organization by investing in our people, in our process, in our product and technology that we deliver, and importantly, in the community, which includes our supply base. We want to make sure that we are very deliberate and we are very conscious of making that investment with our supply base. We also want to make sure that we continue investing in our suppliers by connecting, building, and fostering a relationship with the suppliers so that we can create a win-win situation for both for the City of Atlanta as well as for the suppliers. With that said, investing is a huge term. When I talk about investment, I want to be very specific in saying when we make investment, we are making investment through a DOP Academy that we launched. We have launched a DOP Academy where we train our suppliers, where we train our employees, and we train our user agencies on a continuous basis on all the procurement rules, process, and the codes, so that it is easy for us to process procurement transaction when we work together as one team. I've always said my approach has always been one team, one approach, and one outcome. And that is how we are delivering things on a continuous basis. I also want to talk about we are continuing our transformation. We have not stopped transforming. A lot of companies transform, they stop, and that's the end of it. We will continue doing it, and that's a commitment from me and my entire team, because the best is not yet complete, or the best is not yet here. When I talk about transformation, we are transforming the culture. We are transforming the culture in Department of Procurement, in the supply base, and people around us and the environment around us. So we're changing the culture and making it more inclusive. We also wanted to make sure that we are positioning ourselves as a solution-based organization rather than a tactical organization. I also want to make sure that we are 100% digital, which means that we are using technology almost on a daily basis to enhance our productivity and efficiency in what we do. With all those transformations that I spoke about the culture, about the people, about the process and product, we have started seeing some very impactful and positive results. Today, I am sitting here in front of you to share a very positive thing. The first one is we are going to launch a supply mentorship program for all our small businesses, minority businesses, women-owned businesses. Sometimes in fiscal year 25, we will have a structured program. We will have large suppliers, medium suppliers, small suppliers, and we will educate them and we will teach them on how to do business in general and with City of Atlanta. I am also pleased to mention that through this transformation, we have increased the number of supply participation in solicitations. If you remember 2 years back, 2.5 years back, or right before I had joined, we had numerous instances when there were 0 bids, no bid situation. We only had 1 bid, 2 bids. Today, our average number of bids per solicitation stands at 5. Now again, I'm talking about average. There will be instances based on criticality of the project and the project where there could be 1, 2, low number of providers. And in instances when it's an easier solicitation, we have instances when we have 10, 12 vendors participating. But I will tell you that for all the critical projects that we have done this year, whether it's a DOT project for paving of some roads, we had 7 vendors that bid on it, and we selected 5. The last time when we did that bid, there were 0 bids. I'll also give an example. We are doing a project work in the Grant Park area. We went out for bid 2 times, and this was the 3rd time. 2 times we didn't have any bid. 3rd time, we have bids. And we have responsive bids. So we are changing the culture here. We are making the suppliers part of the process. We are making it inclusive. We are involving them in the front end of the solicitation, informing them, educating them so that they can be very smart when they are putting through their bids. I will also mention that we are working hard to motivate suppliers to register with City of Atlanta. Today, where we stand, we have record number of suppliers being onboarded for City of Atlanta. In the last 10 months, we have 2,500 plus suppliers that have been onboarded. That is at a rate of almost 25 suppliers a month, which means 1 a day. So we are also encouraging suppliers to be part of the ecosystem. We are encouraging suppliers that this is an opportunity to do business with City of Atlanta, and it's an opportunity to grow with City of Atlanta. Now, having said that, I also want to talk about some of the operational achievements that we have. Number 1 is we still continue to average 90 to 120 days in 90% of the solicitations that we are doing. Those days have gone when we were averaging 511 days, 350 plus days. Today, 90% of the solicitation gets completed in 90 to 120 days. Now, why is it 90%? Why not 100%? That's because the rest 10% actually depends on the criticality of the project. Some of the projects we may have to go beyond 120 days because it's a critical project, it needs a lot of work, there's a level of complexity involved, and we want to make sure that we are open, fair, transparent, and competitive with the suppliers. So just by squishing the time frame, sometimes for some of the projects, actually precludes suppliers from bidding on it. So we want to make it open, and that's why we reserve that 10% for critical projects that goes beyond 120 days. I will also mention that when I joined, the PO processing time was around 11 days. Today, we are at less than 1 day. In fact, the last time I checked, it was 54 minutes. 54 minutes. Now, that is a huge amount of work that has taken to transform from 11 days to 54 minutes, or less than 1 day, I would say. Now, what has helped us? You know, the level of technology that we're using to move things forward in a quick fashion. We're looking at RPAs, we're looking at MLs to enhance the efficiency and productivity that we're doing in processing some of these POs. I will also mention on the people side, and I'm proud to say that our attrition rate is less than 10%. In other words, around the city, you have heard the challenges with hiring. We actually created a program within Department of Procurement where we are promoting leaders from inside and then filling the lower end with entry-level positions. And we fill those entry-level positions with new hires with 1 or 2 years of experience. We're giving them an opportunity for personal and professional growth. So when they float up, they are seasoned professionals, they are industry leaders, and they are driving transformation just like anyone would like to, any organization would like to do. So having said that, you know, it is a matter of great honor and pride to lead a team that has accepted transformation, that is part of the transformation, that is part of the change, and they are driving change themselves. The entire team out here sitting on the podium and the entire team sitting at the back, they embrace change. And I am so proud of this team, and I'm very proud to be the leader standing in front of you and highlighting all this accomplishment. Now, before, I think that covers my piece of the presentation. I think at this point, to highlight specific accomplishments, I'm going to hand it over to Topeka Howard, the Deputy CPO for City of Atlanta, Department of Procurement, and then you know, she will be giving you some specifics of what we have accomplished.
Good afternoon, council members. It's good to be here, and it's good to see each of you today. I want to just highlight a couple of, is that better? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to highlight a couple of our accomplishments for the 2024 year that center around those 3 areas of focus that Jadid just spoke of regarding people, product, and process. I first want to talk about where we launched our DOP Academy, which is a critical component to what we're doing in the Department of Procurement as it relates to transformation. It's built on 2 pillars, training and innovation. The Academy in and of itself champions an innovative educational approach. This is redefining learning in a very integral, cutting-edge technology type of way. And the focus is meant to enhance engagement, accessibility, and relevance in training, aligning it closely with the evolving needs of our organization and suppliers. The training is both for internal, with staff and employees, as well as our external suppliers. So we want to give everyone an opportunity to be trained. The suppliers have access to 4 trainings, sessions they can attend monthly. We have an amazing supplier staff management team who garners that initiative. And so as we go through our transformation, the DOP Academy is a great way to teach all of these tools that we are learning in this transformation process, and both the internal and external groups can adopt these methods. So I'm really excited about what we're doing with the DOP Academy. We're in the midst of one right now. We just had a class the other day, and so it is found to be beneficial for our team, and they're growing and learning even the more about the procurement process. I want to move forward with talking about our supplier focus groups. I want to take some time to stay there. Our supplier focus groups industry days, our interest meetings that we have, and want to center around the objective of the supplier focus groups, because they really have been centered around an opportunity to talk with a diverse group of suppliers who are either currently doing business with the city or seeking to do business with the city of Atlanta, to learn about issues affecting their business, their industry, or even the category, because we of course are in our category management model. But the overall intent of the supplier focus groups is to capture market feedback and intelligence. We want to know what they know and to remain in tune with the industry, and as well as leverage their expertise. We want to use what they're teaching us and telling us to help us create better solicitations, to be able to help assist in minimizing the no bid participation that Jadid just spoke of. And so I want to highlight just a couple of those things, or one at least, that we just had an interest meeting for staffing partners, which was one of the largest supplier group gatherings we've had in DOP, where we had about 245 suppliers attend. And so it was an exciting event. It was informative. There were questions and answer part of the actual initiative. And so it's good to see that these suppliers are engaging with the Department of Procurement. And it's because we're providing them with information and engagement. So we are truly excited about the production and what it is, the results that are coming out of us fostering better relationships and understanding between our suppliers. I hope that clearly clarifies what we've been doing there, but I also want to move forward. Jadid tapped into something that I don't want to miss discussing, and that's the increased number of responses to solicitations. And I believe, and I know Jadid, our team believes as well, that the increased number of responses to our solicitations are a direct result of the access that these suppliers have to the information and the dialogue and continual training. Of course, we have our pre-proposal conference. We have site visits. We have those areas where they are coming in smaller portions in the supplier focus groups and having an opportunity to dialogue with the Department of Procurement about any challenges that may be presented. So it's the full engagement, we believe, that we've made available to them that is a direct result of those number of responses and those solicitations. And I also want to highlight a no exceptions agreement process, which was critical to the Department of Procurement, that was implemented, and in collaboration with the Department of Law. We could not do what we do in our department without Department of Law. Don't want to mention a lot of names, but if I were to pin anyone in this process, Chandra Houston has been very instrumental in this process in ensuring that what the vision that Jadid Majumdar had in doing this no exceptions agreement could come alive. And so it has created an opportunity, not just that, but the alternative sourcing procurement package to reduce the time significantly spent in the signature phase. That process was long and very lengthy, and I believe with those two initiatives, it has increased the number of responses, and it has caused us and allowed us an opportunity to stay fast in reaching our goal and our commitment of the 90 to 120-day procurement processing time. One of the other initiatives that is also very important is we implemented the Six Sigma scoring matrix to provide equity in the evaluation process. And we wanted to make sure that we maintain our posture of to run a fair, open, transparent, and competitive procurement process. So it was imperative that we implemented this scoring matrix. And in and of itself, the intent was to provide equity in the evaluation process, and of course rid us of scoring complexities amongst our proponents. This is something that I lived every single day as the role that I have now and the role that I've had previously. So I am truly excited about the results that we've garnered from this scoring matrix. And it's to normalize the scoring patterns, to rid us of all biases, and to remove tie scoring or a possibility of tie scoring. This scoring is industry-based. It's done in other world-class organizations, and so we here at the City of Atlanta have adopted that methodology, and it has proven to be giving us great results at this time. Lastly, I want to just launch into what we've launched as our RACI chart. It is one of our areas where we have implemented a management tool. It is digitized. It is in Oracle. It is a data management tool. We want to see who's responsible, who's accountable, who should we consult, who should be informed, that's what those acronyms mean, about that particular procurement process and where it is. That gives an opportunity for the user agencies to see exactly where it is. There's a timeline. It used to be years ago where we had a project timeline and a schedule. Well, this is 100% digitized in our process of being 100% digitized there. It is in Oracle, and we're going to continue to effectively use it to communicate our project timelines as we move forward in our transformation process. I just believe, and we believe, that with the scoring matrix, council members, as well as the RACI chart, both of these initiatives have assisted us in our efforts to create a value-based, high-performing procurement organization that transacts business with integrity, using what we consider a simplified and transparent process that will eventually benefit the community, partners, and the residents of the city of Atlanta. So as we continue in this transformation process, we have a myriad of initiatives to look forward to. Those were just, in short, some of where we came from. But Amy Cornell, who is the director of the Center of Excellence that oversees the teams who drive efficiencies and effectiveness across the department, will discuss the look ahead in detail. Amy.
Good afternoon, council members, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. Would like to touch on a few of the items that you see on the looking ahead document, the fiscal year 25. As Topeka mentioned, a lot of the transformation that we're doing, so I want to touch on just a few things here. So one of the things that we are committed to working on is diversifying suppliers that work with the city. This is something that will really help us increase the variety of the suppliers that we use across the city, across city agencies, and ensure that we are also being inclusive and creating opportunities for all. And this includes small businesses, women-owned businesses, and minority businesses. We also, I'd like to highlight our what we'll be doing to implement the enterprise contracts citywide. This is something that's going to allow us to standardize contracts across the city, ensure the best deals for suppliers and also for city agencies, and also create a synergy for the user agencies. This effort is going to include a contingent workforce program that will be introduced in fiscal year 25 after the city secures a managed service provider. And as Topeka had also mentioned, our Staffing Partner Interest Day that was related to this effort was the largest event to date that we've had for suppliers, and that was about, as she mentioned, 245 total participants. Another highlight that we have in fiscal year 25 is to automate our business analytics, and this is huge for us. This is going to allow us to access real-time data, be able to show you real-time data, and it's going to also include the number of suppliers that we work with as well as our spend, really down to the minute. Finally, I'd like to highlight our increased training for user agencies. Now, this is something that we currently do quite a bit. We do have regular training opportunities for user agencies to offer as much support as possible in working with us and how we can best support their needs as well. But as we streamline our processes, we have actually just hired a new training manager who is going to take a look at our existing trainings and also be able to identify some things that are working well and maybe some things that need to be improved on so we can continually improve that process and provide the best possible training. Some of the training that we are building is also going to be available to all city employees through ATL Learn. So we're excited about that effort. And also in fiscal year 25, we are going to be collaborating with user agencies to create a master plan for their sourcing projects across the next year. So we'll have an idea of what their needs are and be able to help support them along the way as we make that, put those plans in place. And with that, I just want to close by saying that in fiscal year 25, as you've heard today from our CPO and from our deputy CPO, we will continue to focus on people, process, and product, and of course our communities that we serve every day. And with that, we have created and built a budget that reflects that. So with that, I will turn it over to Deputy Chief Procurement Officer Kevin Floyd.
Good afternoon. Always a great privilege to sit before you and discuss all the things going on in procurement. I get to talk about the fun stuff, and that's the numbers and the positions. We entered into fiscal year 24 with an 18.6% vacancy rating off of an authorized headcount of 86 employees. Through the course of the year, we've taken some personnel actions to increase the headcount to 98, which is where we are at currently and what we're going to go into FY25 with. And I'm happy to say we are at a 9.1% vacancy rating against the 98 headcount. I would also be amiss if I didn't say that at the beginning of fiscal year 23, we were at a 46% vacancy rating. So we've done a tremendous amount of work, as Jadeep mentioned, in hiring, retaining, and attracting top-tier talent, creating career progression, building a pipeline of candidates, and none of that would be possible without the work of the DOP team and our partners in HR, the administration, and this council. So let me jump into the budget piece. So overall, we are seeing an increase in the FY25 proposed budget versus the FY24 adopted. In the general fund, there's an increase of 17.5%, and that's related to an increase in salaries and calibrating the benefits. Like I mentioned, we increased the headcount from 86 to 98, so you're seeing that adjustment there. What is not contemplated in this is any adjustment related to the class and compensation study. There's also an increase of 5.6% in our enterprise funding, again, to support the additional salaries and benefits. We had previously received an apportionment of funds from fleet services to fund one position. You actually see that negated here because what we're doing in this budget is we're getting a allotment of money from capital funds, which is not listed on this slide, but the budget structure is going to be 40% general fund, 20% watershed, 20% aviation, and then 20% capital. And so because of that, we do not need to tap into money from fleet services. And you will also see in the personnel paper for the procurement actions some funding allocations that represent that 40-20-20-20 split. So our section is going to be larger than normal is because we're reallocating funding for all the positions. Then drilling down into the general fund, like I mentioned, you can see the $477,000 increase in the salaries line, the calibration in the benefits line. I won't spend too much time on this. I talked about the personal actions. Our operating expenses are remaining flat, and that's in part to a couple of things. One is because we've become a digital procurement department, the need for operating supplies and things has decreased despite an increase in headcount. And then we also practice what we preach. So we leverage city contracts. We go after economies of scale, seeking rebates from suppliers. And then I am happy to say that because we issue all of the purchase orders, if I see things come through from departments for items that we have a surplus of in our department, I will actually reject it and send them a note and say, hey, come pick it up. I've got this in excess. More than happy to give that to you and save the city some money. So I like to think I run the little general store down on the first floor and help people get what they need. But all of those things have helped us be, in my opinion, good stewards of the money that's been allocated. And with that, I will turn it back over to Jadeep.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Topeka. Thank you, Amy. The next slide is very important to me. It's all about people. And I want to end this presentation with the team, with thanking the team which is sitting behind me and the pictures that you see on the screen. There's a bunch of happy faces there, and it is nothing satisfying and fulfilling to see happy faces, every day, every hour within Department of Procurement. With that, we end today's budget presentation, and we're open for questions.
Thank you. Silver Street.
Thank you. Commissioner, I definitely want to thank you very much for your service since the day that you became part of this City of Atlanta family. You've really hit the ground running, and this is what, your second budget?
Yes.
This is the second budget. The first one was quite contentious, I will say. You came in a situation that wasn't ideal. Our numbers look not like a procurement numbers grid should look, and that didn't bother you at all. You decided that you were going to roll up your sleeves and get to work to make sure that our numbers changed, and you've done that. While we still have work to do, I see a huge difference in where we were when we first started. Before us now is that procurement task force, and that paper was put on hold for a year because I wanted to see how things would change because we had new leadership, and the meetings that we had made me feel like we would be heading in the right direction. So I was comfortable putting it on hold. And I still feel good about that decision. I really do. I just know that in order for us to get all the way over the hump and to make sure that everyone, again, I'm speaking of external customers as well as internal customers, because we have to think about more than just our teams. We have to think about the people that we work with outside of the city of Atlanta, the non-employees. I want them to be as comfortable as I am with the work that you've done. And I want you to help them understand the good news that we are delivering to all of our customers, everyone that we'd like to do business with, those that have refused to do business with the city of Atlanta for X, Y, and Z. I think now we're ready for them. I do. And I do believe that we're on the path now where my main angst at this point is that we don't have enough people bidding on our solicitations. And I believe that we're even heading in the right direction with that too. Your numbers show it, and I feel a cultural shift with that. So I think we're headed in the right direction. We're still going to do the task force. Most of those positions are full at this point. I think we're definitely at the point where we can get started for sure, and we will. And I know it is with your blessing. We've had great conversations about it because now you can come in and talk about how most of the recommendations have already been implemented. There are probably just a couple things that you want to check off that you can, add to it at this point. And for that, I am thankful. And I know it's not just about you. It really is about this full audience as well. Like this is teamwork. This is you coming in, doing the work, and making sure that everyone's on the right page and feel the need to make the city of Atlanta look good. And that's leadership. So I appreciate you for that. So my words today really are just about encouragement and in solidarity, because I feel good about the direction that we're headed in. And I definitely don't feel like I did 3 budget cycles ago. And that's really important. So I wanted to make sure I said all of this out loud.
Thank you so much. Those words mean a lot for us and this team. That encouragement is all we needed to move forward quickly. We are not going to stop here. We are always going to seek opportunities to improve ourselves, to be the best in class. And does the learning stop? The answer is no. We will continuously learn every day, day in, day out. And importantly, we will be proud to showcase what we have accomplished.
Yeah,
So,
and you do a great job of that too. Your branding and your messaging has really been on point. And also the way that you have gone into the fire and decided to bring people in with you in ways of saying, I know you've not wanted to do business with us, but please come to our gatherings. You've really put people in the right place, even those that are, so procurement is probably an area for the city that is unapproachable for a whole lot of people because it's not so, easy to understand. It's not hiring because you have a position open here or a position open there. It really is having to explain to people the way that we do business and asking for them to bid on that. And you are doing that as well. You're making sure that you're educating and inviting at the same time, and you're using innovation and technology at the same time too. So I just applaud you for all of that. That really isn't easy to do. So thank you.
thank you so much. those kind words.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I stand with my colleague when I say thank you for the service you've been doing to the city of Atlanta in your past year and a half. We've been able to work a little bit closer together. The questions I had for you, or I have for you in the department are, if you can first break down the full-time and extra help positions on this. And because I wanted to know how many full-time employees and how many extra help employees do we have? And this is on page, this is on 2 pages, this is on page 7. So if there's do you have a breakdown of how many full-time versus extra help? And my follow-up, my compound question with that would be, why do we have so many extra help people?
So we created extra help positions through the course of the year in order to get us to the level that we needed to be at. So it is never the intent to keep extra help positions long-term or to use them to supplement staffing. So what you'll see in the personnel paper is we're creating the extra help positions as permanent. So we have about 11 extra help positions today. All of those will become permanent in FY25. So we won't have any extra help going into this new budget.
And my next question was page 6, the fleet services. As chair of the utilities committee, when I see fleet services drop down to 0 from 72, is there a reason why we zeroed out the budget fund?
So that was giving us the equivalent of 1 head count. That was a salary for 1 person. And so because we are moving to the 40-20-20-20 split, I didn't want to have 1 person that's kind of silo funded.
We wanted to simplify the process and the numbers that we have.
Clear and concise. Mr. Chair, these answers are very clear and concise. Thank you again for this. I look forward to us doing a procurement fair in District 12 coming up in fiscal year 25. Thank you again, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. CPO. I've always enjoyed our conversations around procurement and the turnaround that you've done with the department. I appreciate all of the detail on the accomplishments, and I mean, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. And I love looking at the procurement time number, but I'm also reminded that speed isn't everything, right? That there are other factors and other things that we need to aim for, and sometimes we do sacrifice speed for that. And you hit on a lot of them, increasing the number of bidders, growing the bidder pool. Y'all are making some great progress on that. I'll say from my vantage point, the other things that I look at, and again, these have not been issues in the time that you've been here, but the number of challenges and protests that we hear about, that number is very low compared to when I was last on council. So I think that's something we just keep our eye on, because that to me is a good indicator of how solid and airtight our procurement processes are, because those that think there are gaps in there will use, that's really their remedy. So let's keep following those numbers. The other thing that I've been looking at and we've been talking about, one is when legislation comes to us and we're waiving the procurement code for whatever reason. A lot of times it's because we're having to do things retroactively. Sometimes it's because contracts have expired, or we're just needing to that. So I think we need to keep that as a focus going forward as well. Hopefully there are things within your processes and systems, and even in Oracle with contracts, that will prevent that. It's great that we don't have to worry about a 500-day lead time now for this, but now that the windows are shorter for when we get successful procurements, I would imagine and hope that those numbers would come down as well.
No, absolutely. In fact, you bring up a very important thing. We have been, in fact, every month we send out a notification to all the user agencies and commissioner about all the expiring contracts that month and 365 days out. Obviously, we still see procurement code waivers with ordinances that has expired, and we are trying to do retro. But if we get into the rhythm of following all these messages that we send out, we wouldn't be in that situation, A. B, we are actually now building a master plan for all the user agencies where we will input all the projects. That way we can take a high-level view of which projects are going to expire in what month, what do we do with those, whether it's solicitation, whether it's canceling. So the master plan will help us a lot. And to achieve that, we are going to collaborate with user agencies to make sure that the master plan that we build is robust in nature. Now, will all the projects be there? Probably the answer is no. There will be ad hoc projects that has to be manually added to the master plan. But from my perspective, it gives a good idea of how to delegate resources to get projects done in a timely way.
I mean, again, to me, it's another indicator of how well the system is humming. Yeah, there will always be outliers, but using technology, using processes, we can minimize that as well. Other thing you and I have talked about a lot is the use of amendments to keep adding money to contracts. I will continue to keep an eye on that. I know that you are as well, and I appreciate the dialogue you and I have been having. But to me, I think there's no greater deterrent to a new contractor wanting to do work with the City of Atlanta when they see the practice of, oh, this is a $50,000 project that over time becomes a $10 million project because we've amended it. So I think that adds to transparency, it adds to competition, so let's continue to keep our eye on that. And the last kind of thing that I hope we keep an eye on as well is that you've done a great job with your presentations in terms of these are the contracts we've done through open competition, these are the ones we've done through special procurement, sole source, or whatever the different categories are. I think so long as we maintain that good composition, or we continue to shift more into the direct competition bucket, I think that adds to transparency, but also is another encouragement of vendors as well. Two just general conversation questions for you while we're here. iPro, I'm curious as to, I think from council side, we are trying to, at least it sounds like the folks up here are really trying to utilize that tool in a good way because it is revealing, it kind of keeps us out of trouble or at least indicates potential problems early. Just curious as to your reflections on it. Are there ways to improve the process? Because sometimes we get hung up waiting for an iPro. Are there processes within the iPro investigations that you think could be tightened or are made more relevant? I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so we work very closely with the iPro team. In fact, we meet almost on a weekly basis to discuss all the open projects, what iPro has to work on, what projects, and so on. But sometimes what happens is we finish the project, but we are also in a hurry to slip in the legislation. Before even DOP says, we have thumbs up for the legislation has already went through. So we are trying to do a catch-up at that point of time. So we have actually started working on a process where we want it sequentially so that you're never in a situation, where iPro report is not there and it's on the floor. So we are working very closely. We're giving them the heads up. We are putting those on their desk so that they can approve it quickly, but they have to do a good job also. It's, so we don't push them to get it done, but we also want it done quickly so that the legislation can be done and the work can start. So from the iPro report, we actually, myself included, I actually read all the iPro reports, including the deputy CPOs, and they are actually involved in the responses of some of those iPro reports. Some of the iPro report findings is pure basic mistakes, signature missing, or someone used the wrong form or something. It didn't change the outcome of the RFP or solicitation, but if we have an iPro and we have to adhere by the process, might as well adhere to the process. And that is part of the training that we are also doing with in the DOP Academy, is make sure that when you send documents to iPro, it is complete. Don't let any signatures be incomplete. Those are basic things. And majority of the findings, if you see, is based on that. Signature's not there, or this has not been signed, or that form wasn't attached. So we are working on it to make sure that we capture it. I think going forward, I have asked the team is to do a summary of what are the major findings, bucketize those. What are the common findings iPro has? Because that's a learning experience for us, because once we know which buckets are fully filled with issues, we can address that separately.
Yeah, they're like little mini audits in
Yeah.
a way. So again, if there's feedback on content, I agree with what you're saying. Some of the findings as we read them are more administrative. And then there's some that are material. So I think if there's a way we can refine that process and really lift the material. My last question has to do with one of the strategies you were looking at, the concept of vertical or industry kind of subject matter, I don't want to call it silos, but you had a more elegant term.
Yeah.
How's that working out? I mean, our thoughts are we
Yeah.
kind of, and how far along in that process are we?
So that is the supply focus group that we were talking about. So we have supply focus group by categories. So we have already kicked that off last year. We are inviting suppliers to come. We are sharing. We are talking to them. We're capturing the feedback.
I'm actually talking about from the procurement side, your teams. You had teams that were, and you're calling them supplier focus groups in terms of.
No, you're talking about the category management
Yes,
teams.
that's it. Yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
So the category management team is working really good. We have a category manager, category leads, and category specialists. They are specializing on that silo, on that particular business. They know the market base. They know who the suppliers are. They know what kind of contracts we have across the city. So when someone approaches us and says, we need a contract done, or we need to do a solicitation, we can at that point say, time out, we already have a contract in place, let's leverage this contract. So we are able to move things forward very quickly because we have a category management team in place. The other piece that I want to mention is, we are looking at enterprise contracts like Topeka was talking, or Amy was talking about. That will help us a lot. Today we have, let's say for a landscaping company, we have 40 plus different contracts all over the place. So by making it enterprise contract and then tapping into that enterprise contract will actually create a very efficient and productive process. Also, the value that it generates is it creates cost savings for community and the residents and businesses.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm generally not a proponent of centralizing functions, but I feel like much like HR, you're one of the only other departments that I think makes a lot of sense for that common platform, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that's going well. Mr. Chair, that concludes my questions.
Thank you. I've got just a few questions. To pick up on one of Mr. Wan's lines, given how muscular Oracle is, how all-seeing it is, how many human eyes are on, contracts and projects, why do we have so many contracts that aren't renewed timely? And is it solely the user agency's responsibility for that?
So you're talking about the expiring contracts
Yes.
that have expired. So we have a good idea of all the expiring contracts. We have it automated in Oracle. We send out the messages. But what we don't know is what's happening at the ground level. Do we need that contract going forward? Do we need to extend it, or do we need to terminate it? Sometimes we wait for the user agencies to come back to us to give that answer. But we also realize that we're not getting that response. If we get that response, we will be able to move very quickly. So part of the DOP training that we're doing is we are educating the user agencies. Make sure that you look at these reports, you create a plan for yourself in the user agency. Let us know what the disposition is with those contracts, because that will help us move forward quickly. Once a contract expires, we do an ordinance and a procurement code waiver to move forward with the extension. At that point, we are scrambling. We're trying to put a solicitation in place so that we can cover all those things. Those are opportunities that we have, not only for Department of Procurement, but for the entire city as one team. We will work with them closely to make sure that we minimize those kind of instances going forward.
Your new FTEs, are they going to be devoted to any one or two particular areas or across the organization as needed?
I know every deputy wants it in their bucket, but let me answer it. We are actually looking at all the gaps that we have, and we are also looking at the workload that's coming towards us. So all our new hires that we're going to place is going to be dependent on what kind of work has to be done. There are some positions that we are focusing on the supply management team, because we want to launch the supplier mentorship program. We want to get that done so there will be some resources allocated there. There will be resources allocated on the category management side, because there's a huge amount of projects that are coming our way, whether it's under Moving Atlanta Forward projects or whether it's other critical projects that have to be addressed quickly. So we are making sure we have the right staffing level to get it handled in an expedited way. So it's going to be in Department of Procurement, but in different areas depending on the workload.
All right. It's always disquieting to me when we'll have only one bidder on a project, and this was the second time it was bid because the first time there were none. And often those are on some of the largest, most costliest projects we see. So it's always seemed logical to me to ask if we'd get a better response if the scope was broken up, and the departments inevitably push back. Is that just because it's less convenient for them?
I'll be very honest with you. Sometimes the scope is not unbiased scope when I talk about that. When we have a long-term contract, people get used to the work scope for such a long time that is the only work scope they see. For us, we are a solution-oriented department. We are looking at different ways to look at doing things differently. So we are evaluating the scope on a neutral basis to make sure that we are adaptable to the market. We are palatable to our suppliers who want to bid on it. So long-term contracts that have been there for a long time with high dollar amount, we're taking a close look at that. We are formulating a strategy to address that, and we want to make sure that we have a separate approach with our suppliers when it comes to those kind of contracts. In those kind of situations, what we found is very helpful is to have supply meetings, supply engagement upfront before the solicitation is launched. That way, it gives suppliers more knowledge of what we want to do, and we're capturing their feedback as part of the engagement, that what could we do differently to make it neutral and unbiased for every supplier to bid.
Lastly, the dreaded signature process, and I know that's been on your radar screen. It's just incomprehensible to me how long it takes to collect the number of signatures you need. So tell me what you're doing to try to telescope that.
Last year, we implemented a 3-day signature SLA. So in other words, you have 3 days to sign a contract. What we have also instituted is a concurrent process. So if a document goes out, it's rather than doing it sequentially, some of the documents we are doing it in parallel. So that way we are saving time. So if Kevin has to sign one document, Topeka has to sign the one document, it doesn't have to wait for Kevin to sign to come to Topeka. If they are reviewing it simultaneously, they can sign concurrently, and that way we are able to move forward. The other piece that has really helped us a lot in the signature process and shortening the signature process from the supplier's perspective is the no exception process. So in other words, we only have a defined set of exceptions that we will accept from the suppliers. We want the suppliers to share the exceptions that they want so that we can review it while the review of the bids are going on and get back to them with the answers. So once we select who the final proponent is for a particular solicitation, we have already reviewed their red lines. And we are sending it back to them with our response, and we're getting them to sign it. So that has helped a lot to cut down the cycle time. Otherwise, the traditional process was you select the supplier, then you send out the contract, it comes back after 6 months, 5 months, and sometimes I don't even see the contract. I didn't even see some of the contracts back. So by this way, we are making sure that every bid that we complete has a signed contract within a defined time frame.
All right, well, in closing, I'll just say you've made a lot of progress. I look forward to doing what we can do to keep the ball rolling forward. I know that you have a tough job in that all these user departments are in effect common law spouses of procurement. And so if things are going to be smooth on the home front, it means there has to be a lot of collaboration involved, and you can only run as fast as the person that you're tied to, right? If there's nothing else, procurement, thank you.
No, thank you. But one of the things in closing, I would like to thank the administration, Mayor Dickens for his support, and importantly, the council member support. All the transformation that we have gone through, I've shared that with every one of you. I've kept you apprised, but the support that you have given us and the team is immense. So on behalf of Department of Procurement, the entire team, and this leadership team, thank you once again.
All right, thank you. And labor, you are up.